Welcome into 11 Personnel, presented by our good friends at Monticello Bank. Nick Roush and Adam Luckett here with you on this January 16th, where we're not officially punching out, but it does feel like we're the end of the road from the grind in August. Tomorrow's the last day to add players, to add classes at UK, which is also the last day to add players. So we're at the end of the road. It started in August, or I guess July, through a hot Dallas, Texas for media days, and it's been quite a grind that had a pretty big up and a lot of downs, and then it was an eventful transfer portal season, one that might not be done just yet. Are you ready to put a bow on this season, Luckett? Because I sure as hell am ready to punch out for a few days and exhale.
Yeah, I was going to start off by asking you, are you ready for one of our few, there's like two slow seasons to me for covering the football team, covering a college football team.
Yes. One is May.
If you're involved in recruiting. One is actually May, not so much, because recruiting stuff starts to pick up a little bit.
More so now than it used to. Yeah.
You have draft overflow. Now, from now, once this portal stuff wraps up, from now until like spring starts, so March. So you got a little month where it's kind of dead. You'll have a junior day, which will be a big deal, but we won't know much about those guys. The prospects, we'll know a few, but not a ton. And then the next slow part to me, I wouldn't even say May. I wouldn't even say June, because recruiting really ramps up in June. In July, I would say it's from that July 4th until like camp starts.
Yeah, but media days kind of is
I guess so.
Fires things up.
Yeah, but we have media days and then we get back and it's just like, what are we supposed to do with our hands?
And then you go and you do Kentucky football media days, and then you get all this stuff, and then you're just like, all right, let's hope it can hold us over till August. I really think that like now is a good time for catching the breath. The late August doldrums are the hardest, if we're being quite honest, where it's like, all right, I've written all of my
that in the spring. The spring is worse. Because at least in August, the season's close. You get halfway through spring.
Oh, and there's nothing to talk about.
You just feel like no one wants to be there. Not even no one wants to be involved with this.
Well, and so and then you're also how much are they spoon feeding this bullcrap, right? Like Jansen Dunn was the big winner of the spring last year. I mean, how much did he even play? That's the kind of stuff we'll get to experience this spring. Will we get a spring game this year, Adam Luckett?
I would highly advise for them to have a spring game. I don't think it's going to be a very big turnout, but I would just go through the motions.
Well, things aren't officially done. Maybe we'll get some good news during our show today. But Luckett and I, we are going to clock out some this weekend. I'm going to go visit my brother in St. Pete down in Florida. Luckett's doing a little weekend getaway to Cincinnati. So, just having the Kentucky basketball game as like I'm going to go to a bar and watch it and just be an idiot. Oh, it's so much fun.
Taylor was asking me last night before we went to bed, like what I was most excited for. And that was it. Like, to me, that was it. Like getting to go there, watch the game, and then after it have like a full Saturday. So like I was like I'm in college again, or like I'm post grad again.
It's going to be so great. I mean, the noon tip off. I think we're going to go to some beach bar. That's our only plan for the whole weekend. We considered a hockey game. Tickets are expensive, so it's just like, so we're just going to go, just be in, probably some rainy weather in Florida in the 60s. Like, fine by me. Let's bebop around. Let's get after it. Like, let's have ourselves a day. Hopefully, Kobe Bryant shakes out of that slump. But, we're not here to preview that game, although I'm going to probably bet Kobe Bryant threes if I can get it before we get out of the state. The Florida gambling laws, really dumb. I don't think I'm going to sign up for Hard Rock. I think I'm just going to try to make all my bets, which is why we're going to be previewing all of the divisional games today and looking ahead to the national championship game on Monday. But first, I need to tell you about our good friends at Monticello Bank, proud presenting sponsors of 11 Personnel. Look it, do you know what HELOC is? You ever heard of a HELOC when it comes to banks? What would a HELOC be?
See, I thought you said Hill Lock, so I was like, do you have a side in whoever North Carolina's playing on Saturday?
No, like,
Do you have a lock on whether Bill Belichick is going to be the coach in week 1 or not?
I think HELOC, like I'm saying it like I'm the local yokel, but a HELOC is a home equity line of credit. And at Monticello Bank, you can take home court advantage with it and use the equity you've built in your home to finance home projects and improvements. Score big with fantastic introductory rates and attractive closing costs with Monticello Bank. Right now, I'm in a sunroom that has absolutely zero what's the word I'm looking for? Insulation. So we're considering this is a little bit down the road, but we're probably going to do an add-on, change this room, do some stuff to the house. Might check out the HELOC rates, see how things are going at Monticello Bank. They've got 20 locations in 14 counties across the country. And cross Kentucky are just around the corner. So hurry in and speak with one of our mortgage lenders today, or visit them online at nbcbank.com, Monticello Bank, where people matter. Member FDIC, equal housing lender, proud presenting sponsors of 11 Personnel. Mr. Luckett, we had some fun developments here in the transfer portal. I know we're talking about it closing, but I got to say, if you asked me how I felt about the portal class before the dead period, I was just kind of, like I like some of these guys, but this has been a hell of a close, especially if it closes with Shias Pete committing to Kentucky. That's the last one we're really waiting on. And we thought they were up a creek without a paddle here, even though they got him on campus for a visit a couple of weeks ago. Steve Wiltfong and NACOS reported earlier this week that it was really a 2-horse race between Nebraska and Michigan. Then on Wednesday, it was, not so fast. Kentucky's now the leader. This could be their final piece to the puzzle and would really address every need. And most importantly, Luckett, I think a lot of people would have said going into this sort of deader period, if you asked them, even Mark Stoops' harshest critics, they would have said, you know what? I kind of like what they did in the portal, but left tackle, I don't know. If you don't have a left tackle, like, did you really do what you needed to get done? If they answer this question, there's not really a whole lot out there for them. It would be a pretty damn good job in free agency, if you ask me.
Yeah, I think you look just on offense, Nick. Every position they needed to address, I think they would have addressed in the portal in the spring if they get Pete in the fold. 4 new starters on the offensive line, both tackles, guard, and a center. New quarterback. Another running back. Totally reload. I don't know if reload's the right word, but totally filled the gaps that you lost, filled the snaps that you lost at receiver. You did it in a big way, adding 4 guys. You added depth piece for tight end. Like, I think they've done everything you wanted them to do on offense, and I think Pete would be the last piece to the puzzle. And I think you can maybe nitpick about who they got or who they didn't get, yada, yada, yada. But overall, I think they accomplished the mission for this month plus.
Mm-hmm.
It was to have a total roster overhaul on offense and to get guys that they could plug into starting spots, and I think they've done that. And now that that's over, now it's like, okay, all right, you've got continuity, right? You got staff continuity. You've got the same offensive coordinator and the same offensive line coach for the first time since Grant and Schlarman, which is crazy to say. Coming back.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a roster that they've built, right? Handpicked.
Yep.
Wolford got to go out and handpick these offensive linemen. You beat some legitimate schools for these offensive linemen in the portal. Now I think it's important to remember portal comes offensive linemen. It's not easy Just because they got all those schools recruiting them doesn't necessarily mean that their play will match that sometimes.
Right.
So that's important to remember. But you went out and you got a quarterback, you got a running back, you got receivers. Now you need to go and with all those pieces, you need to be able to build a functional offense. And I think there's more riding on the offense this year more than normal. It's just because we've talked about the schedule. They're just going to have to score points in these games against the teams they're playing.
Is that asking too much?
Well, that's another podcast episode.
Yeah, we'll get into that later. But if you look at the pieces kind of individual, or obviously, like you're not going to get every player you recruit in the transfer portal. That's not how this works. There's you throw a lot of darts at a board, you hit plenty, you miss on some. If they're able to get Pete, you kind of look around and how many players would you say that they went after and just missed?
There were a couple tackles to get to this point.
You missed out on your first two tackles. Ahmad Hardy was the running back. Maybe I can't really remember any.
Horatio Fields.
Okay, there was one. But
I think, like, to me, I think I might rather have True Edwards than Horatio Fields.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll see how that plays out. But I think they ended up being okay there. But, yeah, I think you're right. Offensively, there's not – I'm going down our big board for KSR and that we have to kind of monitor everything. And there's not – they've pretty much gotten, I think, everyone they wanted to get. There were some receivers, Nick, that I think they were in on and they just couldn't get to campus. Kyron Hudson ended up at Penn State. Naziah Hunter was a guy – Kentucky's one of the first offers, the Cal transfer. He ends up in Nebraska. So I think from that area, and then running back, did they just make a move on Dowdell because that was a guy they could get instead of maybe waiting on someone else or whatnot.
Save some money for elsewhere sort of deal.
But yeah, I think they check boxes. I don't think you can reasonably look at them and say they're ruining this. They're messing up. They're not doing a good job. I don't think you could say that. They've done a good job, I think, addressing their needs. Now, how well do they address them, and how well is the fit? And that's the test, and that's what we won't learn until the season starts.
Exactly. Like that's the part that rosters have looked good on paper before. There's no doubt about it. I don't think when we were looking at the roster last fall, we were like, they don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to build it. If you look, particularly at the offensive line, because that was the number one area that you needed to address. I don't care if you were 6 or 66. You knew if you were a Kentucky football fan, they need to be better up front. They got 5. If Pete gets in the fold, that's 5 new guys. 4 you expect to be starters. All 4 of those were all conference selections at their last stop. Now, they vary in degrees. Josh Braun's a 2-year starter in the SEC. The rest were Conference USA guys. So it's a little bit different. But they have prioritized product. Like you've seen these guys play college football, competent college football. You've seen Pete play against A&M. You've seen Alex Wolschlager play. Was it at Auburn or was that at A&M too? Nevertheless, like
A&M, him and Pete both played against A&M. And stay tuned. I'll have rolling out here now that we have some time to catch our breath. I'm going to go back and kind of do some film reviews and have film rooms on all these guys that we didn't touch on. And Wolschlager should have up tomorrow, and so we'll kind of break down what he can bring. But yeah, he played against A&M, and so did Pete. If you wanted to go and watch those games,
right,
see them versus SEC bodies.
And so there's something tangible there where, okay, all right, we know that they can do that against this guys. We aren't just rolling the dice with them. So I think it's got to give you some confidence. It's got to give you some optimism, and particularly late in this process, it's good to see them get some guys that like, oh yeah, that guy's a ball player. And we haven't talked since Marquise Graves made it official and enrolled on Sunday. Kentucky locked up the Missouri Valley Conference's Defensive Player of the Year. Second team All-American at the FCS ranks this year. He had, I think it was 18 and a half and not tackles for loss and 9.5 sacks.
It was 18 and a half TFLs, and then I'd have to look up the sack number.
I think it was 9.5. I kind of get them mixed up, but you got a bona fide potential star, and that was something we talked about a few weeks ago. It's like, well, where's the kind of the star power fall on this team? Hey, here's a defensive end that can have a dozen tackles for loss and be potential All-SEC candidate next year, who has 2 years of eligibility that Georgia wanted. I was talking with somebody at Georgia, and they're like, don't get it twisted. They wanted him. They wanted him. This wasn't a hat on the table sort of situation. Kirby Smart rearranged his schedule to make sure he was there for that visit because he wanted to get it home. Instead, he ends up in Kentucky. Vince Merrill flexes his recruiting muscles, gets it done, and that's the kind of win that gets the harshest critics back on board. And I know you're listening right now, and you're probably nodding your head, and you were one of them who was waiting for them to. You're kind of almost there. This was enough to get you back to a sort of baseline where you may be skeptical still of Mark Stoops, but you're like, okay, there's enough there where you can maybe prove me wrong once the games actually begin. But as much as we poke fun at the nobody panic Luckett, they're kind of living up to it with a strong finish to this class if they're able to. I mean, the final week, if they're able to get Shiaz Pete, Mike Queese Grace, and True Edwards, I mean, this might be, maybe not 3 of your best, but what, 3 of your top 10 players next year?
Yeah, I think you can make the argument that Grace is their best player in this portal class. And I think you can make the argument that True Edwards is top 3 to 4 player in this portal class. So I think here at the end, in the late January kind of closing window, they've gotten 2 legitimate starters at premium positions when you look at defensive end and wide receiver. Mm-hmm. So I think these were both big additions. And again, overall body of work, I think they've done a really good job here in the portal. And I think Grace, Nick, to your point, there was a hole at that position. Mm-hmm. We think Gerard Smith, we think Brian Robinson can eventually be good players there. But you lose Ripka and Oxendine off that team last year. Saunders is a guy you could have probably played out there, but I think now you can have a nice little 1-2 punch at defensive tackle with him and Jaden Williams. So getting Grace, I think it gives you a really good player there right away, plug and play. And then I think you look at, maybe Darian Henry Young can help you some at that spot. Then you also have Gerard Smith and Brian Robinson as young players potentially to be involved there in that spot. So I think it gives the defense a legitimate potential playmaker. Mm-hmm. They need some playmaking because they lost some off of last year's team, and I think it's a big get for the defense. And I think if you were ranking starters on the defensive side of the football, just ranking them, he would be near the top for the defense next year.
And part of it is adding the pass rush capability, if you will. But the other issue that we talked about at the end of the season, I hate revisiting it, but just having guys there to stop the run, because that was bad at the end of the year. It was very gross. It was disgusting. And
how much of that was lack of buy-in and effort? That's something I've been wondering. Like, how much should we react to that?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
And this is a kind of a different conversation that we'll get into when that actually fires up, the Senior Bowl and all the draft talk. But like, I'm fascinated to hear what NFL people say about Deion Walker, because I got a feeling that he's going to end up doing pretty well at the Senior Bowl, and the 2 years of having a good motor will outweigh the third. And there's probably some stuff we didn't know about Deion injury wise that they'll.
That's what I want to find out.
Yeah.
How hurt was he last year?
Because he was playing. I remember writing about it. I think after the Ole Miss game. I mean, he had played 95% of Kentucky snaps in SEC play. it was a crazy amount. So
He was hurt. He was
yeah,
playing with an injury. We just don't know what it was. That's what
right.
I'm interested to see. Like,
And
how much differently do we view that, knowing maybe if he had some type of injury?
and then that'll end up being the thing that comes out more towards the combine, because I think early on the draftniks, the
Yeah, I mean,
outsiders,
we'll get that in Brugler's. It'll be in Brugler's, the Beast.
But I
whenever
think
that comes out.
even before that, though, when you start to see him rise up boards, because right now your
Yeah.
NFL draft people are just people who watch the games. Once the teams have their interviews and stuff, and they go through the Senior Bowl, and then they talk to the players, that's when things start to become a little bit more accurate. And clearly your run defense is going to be good if that guy's playing injured, not at 100%. But and then also losing DJ, which, yeah, that's a bummer. It's a real bummer. I don't know. I got off track a little bit there to say that having a guy like Myquise Grace, because it's easy for us to do the comps to other Kentucky players, but I just whenever I watch him, I'm just immediately like, oh, that's a Josh Paschal, just because he's like a big guy that you could see as a jack, but he's probably too big for jack. But he's got great twitchiness for a defensive end in that spot. So like I just and I don't know the kid at all. And Josh Paschal was like that. That's the kind of culture, kind of guy that you were missing from this program. But just to have a player of similar stature, explosiveness at that position, much needed. When Ribka played well, you noticed it.
Yeah.
When that position's playing well, it really pops. But there's times where it's non-existent, and you need the guy playing that position to be making a difference behind the line of scrimmage.
And you just need good players in the trenches.
Yeah.
Bottom line, he's a good player. You add him, you need depth. Like Jaden Williams is an addition I'm excited about potentially. Number one, just from the depth he will bring immediately, and as his potential as a pass rusher. David Gusto, who we talked about last podcast, like that's a great 1-2 punch, I think, with Josiah Hayes, and I think there's gonna be times those two can play together. So I just like what they defensive front wise. I like what they have done. I think there's I think it's fair to wonder what the plan is behind the defensive front. I think I like what they've done at edge. I'm going to throw that in there too. But linebacker, I thought they might add one more. I thought they would add a safety to come in and compete and be like the third safety. I thought they would add a nickel, miss on to Marcus Cooley, who would have been that nickel for you. They added Kevis Thomas at cornerback, but I don't know if he's necessarily going to push one of your guys that you have coming back to start. So defense is actually, I think, the unit to watch here in the spring, portal-wise. If they get Shiaz Pete, they'll be at 87 scholarship players, Nick. That would give them 41 scholarship players on offense, 44 on defense, 2 on special teams. Now, I think it's important to note Kentucky's going to lose some more players that are returning. But defensively, it seems like they probably have positions they want to address still. Where offense, like I talked about, I think they check pretty much all of their boxes. The only real glaring one at the moment is, you're always looking for offensive line depth, but the other one I think would be RB3. You're going to bring in another running back. The running back room's got 4 players in it.
Mm-hmm.
That's not enough scholarship players.
That can be bad.
That's the next position, I think. Other than that, I think you could see a decent amount of defensive activity.
Well, and
when things get ramped up again in the spring.
This goes to the column you wrote on KSR Plus, which if you're not a member, UK1 will get you access for 2 months. Come join us over there. We have a lot of fun talking during the games. I'm particularly loving I'm getting really into college basketball this year, Luckett. And it's not that I've been out of it because I've been watching Kentucky, but Kentucky not being fun made me less inclined to watch Tennessee play Georgia on a random Wednesday night. So I love hopping on the threads we got going on during those random Tuesday, Wednesday nights, seeing the, Jeff Capel try to pull a Coach K out there. So come on, join the fun with us and read columns like Luckett's one where, and I mean, you can get into it more now if you'd like, but essentially that those classes, that 24 class, how many linebackers do they have in it? How many cornerbacks do they have in it? Like those guys have to either, I mean, they got shit or get off the pot. Pardon my French, but I don't really know a more eloquent way to put it. That's where it is for a lot of those guys. Because hell, that was the class that had like 6 guys that were listed as linebackers, right?
Yeah, it was.
So,
yes.
So it's like, all right, some of y'all got to figure out a way to play, because or else they're going to go get a portal guy to replace you.
Yeah, and just from a roster health standpoint, you need these guys to fill like rotational roles and to fill spots.
You need a DeAndre Square to play as a freshman wearing 43.
If Jason Patterson steps up, you don't need
RB3.
You're fine at our running back, right?
Yeah.
You need Gerard Smith, Brian Robinson step up. I mean, Cutter Boley's development, low key, one of the more important things going on in the program. Can Cam Dooley be your third safety? It looks like that's the plan as of right now to me.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Quaysheed Scott, where do you play him? Like, to me, that's one thing I would like to learn in the spring. We probably won't.
Yeah. Come on.
But like, where are they going to play him? Like, is he going to play nickel? Is he going to play safety? Is he going to play corner? Just where does I think he played some outside corner. I think he played some nickel last year in game. So where does he kind of end up? He's interesting. Offensive line wise, Abasim. Is he ready to be a starter in 26? Where you at with Mark Nave in his development? Linebacker, you mentioned. There's a bunch of guys. Steven Souls and Willie Rodriguez are guys that will play legitimate roles on this team coming up. And, like, can they be producers for you? And they've missed on, we talked about this last week, I have the number here, Nick. It's a pretty jarring number. I need to build an algorithm so I can see what everyone else's is. But from the 21, 22, and 23 recruiting classes, which on your 2025 roster would be your redshirt seniors, true seniors, redshirt juniors, right? So your upperclassmen on a roster, like the backbone of your team, the guys in the starting positions, the guys in leadership spots, the guys you're really leaning on, the guys you're taking the media days, right? The guys who are captains of your football team. They signed 57 players in those 3 classes. They have 13 left on the roster. 22.8% retention rate for like the backbone classes, those 3 classes. So they just have nothing there. So they need this 2024 class to really step up and really be a big hit for them. And so, like, to me, that's one of the more underrated storylines of the team, is you really need to keep this core of this class, I think, together and have a lot of good starters come from this class. I think it's really important for the future of the program. And for this year, I think it's important because a lot of these guys are going to fill important rotational roles or be with a couple starters. And you need a lot of them to be productive players for you starting now.
No time to waste. That's how healthy rosters need to be built. And when you hit the reset button, you can't let that trend continue. You can't continue to have the 22% attrition rate. Yeah, that can't be the case. Oh, hey, it's Jacob Polachek. He's in the chat. Nice to see you, Jacob. Hope you're all reading Jacob's stuff on KSR Plus. I
have no idea what that emoji means.
I mean,
is that even an emoji?
It looks like a whistle. I'm really confused. You know what isn't confusing though is downloading the Game Time app. It's very easy. You just hit the button, and then you hit the button on the side of your phone. You download it, and then you put in the promo code KSR, and then you buy tickets to your favorite event, and then you're gonna get $20 off your purchase. How easy is that? It's not very difficult. Now there are some terms that apply, but promo code KSR, you're gonna get $20 off your first purchase at Game Time. It's the best ticketing app for all your concerts, your ball games, your shows, whatever it may be, whether it's Shane Gillis, whether it's Kentucky basketball, whether it's I don't know. Who's the musical? Who do people listen to in music? Is it?
They have Taylor Swift concert tickets on there.
I think she's done with that concert. Chris Jansen. You can go to the Chris Jans, or whether it's Chris Jans or Chris Jansen, Game Time's got you covered.
Yeah, I think Brooks and Dunn is coming to the Yum Center here in a few weeks.
That's
Brooks and Dunn tickets.
That's right around Derby time. So boom. Oh yeah, and then isn't Tyler Childers going to Kroger Field this spring?
That sounds right.
Yeah. So go to Game Time. Get your tickets there. The best deals at Game Time. I would love NFL playoff tickets too. I'd love to go.
Early SEC tournament tickets too. Probably find some on there.
I mean, it would be a lot of fun to have a book for this game, for this tournament.
The first extended one too. Yeah.
Yeah, that would. And I know. So when my parents, that was how they did the SEC tournament back in the day. Was you got a ticket book and you just went the whole time. I felt like once it moved to Nashville, it became more of a. You go to the bars and then you go to a game or two here or there. You just go to a couple sessions. This would be fun, like an old school Georgia Dome or Superdome. Go to all the games, sort of deal.
Yeah, we went in Atlanta once, 2014.
That had to be the last time it was in Atlanta.
That was the last time in the Dome.
Mm-hmm.
You could get tickets for fairly cheap
Mm-hmm.
because they're so big, right? And we went on Friday, so Kentucky played the 7:00 game. We just did the bar Friday thing, but then we went Saturday and stayed for the whole thing, 2 games. Just fun. I mean, it's just fun. It wasn't like that super expensive. The seats were decently, like we got decent seats, and then we paid a little extra to get a little closer for the title game that Sunday. That's the only experience I've ever had with it.
Mm-hmm.
But comparing it to the ones in Nashville I've been to, just totally different. Like the ones in Nashville, like it's just like
it's a party.
Yeah, I mean,
and the basketball is a sideshow.
Well, to even get in the games is just hard. I mean, it's expensive. Like we went 2015 the next year, and just getting the building was a couple hundred bones for the championship game. And I don't know if I spent $200 on all those. I went and saw 3 Kentucky games so the year before, and I don't know if I spent $200 on tickets.
The Georgia Dome, they would put the curtains up for some of it, but I'm sure some of it had to do with you had 25,000 people could get in versus what's Bridgestone, like 18 maybe?
Yeah.
So
that's another thing. There was games when Kentucky played Arkansas where they had 40, 50,000 people. Like the 94, like around that time, Patino versus 40 Minutes in Hell.
Yeah. Which, hey, maybe when they get the dome built, if the league is as good as it is right now, where Auburn, that's an easy drive from Opelika. Tennessee's good. Like you would have this would be a year where you could put it in the Nashville Dome and sell 30,000 tickets easy for especially a semifinal. If it was Auburn, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Alabama, I mean, that place could be rocking. Really hope the Cats get it done on Saturday. I want to talk a little bit about the NFL playoffs. And
before we get there, Nick.
Okay.
Some people brought this up in the chat, and something I was thinking about today.
Okay.
Like, about how many, did you have a win number in your head, and has that changed now that they've added what will be 19 players after they get Shai Pete? No one who left the team. Has your number changed?
Yes and no. So I say that because I'm the ultimate. I'm just an eternal optimist with everything. That's just how I live my life. I've always been an optimistic person. I'll get closer to convincing myself that 6 is possible in June when I know what I'm working with elsewhere. Because the other thing is that even though the portal's died down, like I still feel like elsewhere there's a lot more going on.
It's in your schedule, yeah.
But maybe a game. Maybe I was like 4 instead of 4 and 5 is my optimistic. Maybe I'm closer to 5 and 6 is my optimistic. Even though I like Calzada a lot, I think next year is going to be a big year on how you play versus the final score. Because the way that Kentucky played against Georgia and Ole Miss is the way that Kentucky fans expect them to play every single week, and they just delivered dud after dud after dud. And hell, I even say Tennessee, Texas was decent for portions of it. But yeah, maybe a game. It moved the needle a game for me, being able to get Marquise Grace, and if they get Shiaz Pete, because one, it shows me a willingness to be all in, and I think if you're doing that, I think that kind of sets the tone for the rest of the off season. That we're kind of not messing around here, and hell, just getting 20 new guys that are going to be your new culture setters like that. Yeah, so yeah, it moved the game in a one game needle for me.
Yeah, I think there was it was on the table that it could have ended up being a disaster when you add the schedule with how many players they needed.
Mm-hmm.
I think they've done a good job of building a roster. Like, I think they have a somewhat high floor as a team. Like, I don't think they're going to be terrible. Don't think they're going to be great. But I don't think they're going to be that different from what some of these other recent Kentucky teams we've had. Most notably, like the the teams that went to a bowl game before the 2018 team.
Yeah. I was kind of thinking that Benny Snell year 2, that 2017 team.
Like, I think
mucking it up, winning a few here and there.
If you plug the rosters and player ratings into a video game, I think that team would beat the other team. I mean, I'm just talking out loud.
Yeah.
But the schedule is so tough. So I think they've raised their floor where I don't think it's going to be a truly like DEFCON 5 type
bottoming
season.
Out for another 4-8 back-to-back sort of deal.
Well, I meant like just lose to Toledo and like 2-10, 3-9 is on the table. I don't think it's going to be that.
Yeah.
I think they're probably going to be like 5-7 would be my pick right now. I think. Now we got a long way to go.
I think yeah.
Till we get there. I was probably leaning more 4-8, but I think they've done a good enough job where I think 5-7 kind of feels like the most likely scenario. And I'll be very interested to see where they are in like some of the power rating metrics when all those come out in the summer. But again, the schedule's brutal. And if you like, I kind of looked at it closer today. If you think Kentucky can get to 7-5, the beginning stretch, you got to be 3-1 after the first 4 to me. You play South Carolina and Ole Miss early. South Carolina's off a bye. We all know the bye week stats. So, like, to me, you got to win one of those games. If you win one of those, then I think you can get to 7-5. If you don't, it's going to be hard. To me, like, the most important parts of the season is, like, they need to play well against, like, the Auburns, the South Carolinas, the Louisvilles. Like, those are the teams they sucked against last year. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was the ones that was, like really? Like, this is the kind of game, like the performance where they actually played well again, I think, against the bigger schools. So you have to play well against theirs, and like, dude, they gotta win a home game.
Yeah. That we're back to ugly streaks, and you can't have ugly streaks add up on you. You gotta get,
and that's why I think
as soon as possible.
Low key, that Ole Miss game is really important.
Yeah. Breaking in a new quarterback, that'll be his first.
It's Austin Simmons' first road start, I believe. And just the optics of a season, you got an early season bye week. Like, and you pull up the schedule, like after South Carolina, I think it's Georgia, Texas, Tennessee are your next 3 games. So, like, I think that would get them off a good foot. Like, it could kind of snowball on them a little bit if they don't win that Ole Miss game. So that game is, like, really important. And you talk about the home streak, like Texas and Tennessee are both at home. You could start 0-3 at home if you lose to Ole Miss. So I think that game, that almost feels like we'll know how the season goes based on that game to me. As of right now, where I sit. But we got to see how everything plays out.
We got plenty of time to get to it, to preview, to dig our teeth into it all. Now let's talk about real football games that are happening this weekend. 4 NFL playoff games. I want to start with the biggest one because, Luckett, you know how much I love to hate Lamar Jackson. It's so much fun. It makes Louisville fans so mad. Ever since I had my little tit for tat back and forth with him on Twitter too, I feel like I'm the they're waiting for me to say something and then to just kill me. But damn it, he's really good. And you don't realize how awesome he's been this year and how much having Derrick Henry has helped him out even more so. That I like to make futures like right now or next week when, okay, let's get some decent odds on a team to win 2 or 3 games in a row. I feel like I got to bet the Ravens to win it all right now because it is like Lamar's got to win one eventually, right? This kind of feels like his best chance. The Bills, as good as Josh Allen has been, I mean, the Ravens kind of ran all over him last time the two played. And then on top of it all, I just can't be the 3 in a row for the Chiefs. That just doesn't happen. They've been playing with fire all year to a lesser extent than they did the year before. I don't know. Am I crazy for trying to talk myself into this being the year that Lamar wins the Super Bowl?
No, they've been the best team the last 2 years. They should have won it last year. Them and the Niners were the best teams last year, but neither won it because Chiefs. Hashtag Chiefs.
Patrick Mahomes, yeah.
So, yeah, this is their best team, but they're going to have to win twice on the road.
Yeah.
Which is tough. And then they're going to have to beat a really good NFC team. That's what I worry about the road. The road's going to be brutal.
That's true. Are you believing?
I actually think the better value I would like to play the Eagles.
Yeah.
But Hurts will look so rusty.
Mm-hmm. Nakobe Dean got injured. Do we know what's going on with him?
He's out for the year.
He's
knee
done.
Injury. Yeah.
Yeah. That's tough.
But they got the best. They got the best defense, and their run game is lethal, and then their receivers are great. Mm-hmm. So, like, if they could put it all together, like, that's intriguing. The reason that I think the AFC has it rough is because it's going to be a gauntlet getting out of there, where the NFC is just like,
oh, you got to beat the Rams at home, who you smoked earlier. I don't think Jalen Hurts ain't sitting back there and eating 9 sacks. You know, I guess not going to get that this week, LA.
That would just be my thing, specifically with the Ravens. Like, the Chiefs got an easier path, but the Ravens and the Bills, like, that's a tough road. Win that game, win in Kansas City, and then go beat Detroit or Philadelphia in the Super Bowl if they play out like that, which they probably will. Like, that's just a tough road to me.
This weekend's game in particular, just Dolphins. I've seen the heartbreaking Bills playoff loss at home before, and I think I'm just expecting it. And I know that sounds bad, and I like Bills Mafia, and I want Josh Allen to have success.
He's only got out of the divisional round once. So is Lamar too, but
right. But that's why this weekend I don't. And part of the reason you expect it too is going into the year, you expected this to be kind of a bridge year for them. And if you look on paper, just I'm buying stonks in Derrick Henry. I know James Cook has been the best he's been at. Like I thought he was a bum and a loser, and Ray Davis is going to take all of his carries this year. But James Cook's been great for them in the running game. I kind of trust that. I know Zay Flowers is a little banged up, but Rashad Bateman, Mark Andrews, like that cast of characters around Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, I just trust more than Josh Allen and James Cook in this game. And the Bills defense, even though they're at home, it's going to be cold. I don't know. Maybe I'll be foolish for saying this, but that's the last game of this weekend, and it's going to be awesome. I can't wait.
To me, that game's going to come down to what team can win it on offense. Like, one of those teams is going to have the ball with 5 minutes left with a chance to go win the game. Mm-hmm. Do they give the other team the ball back?
Yeah. Oh man, that's the late kick on Sunday, and I'm foolish for not pulling up the lines. Like, what are you doing here, Roush? You big dingus. You should have the NFL lines pulled up when you're going to talk to him, because that opened with the Bills being favorite. Now they're 1.5-point dogs. The early game, the Rams at the Eagles. The Rams were impressive, and I guess the way you get to an upset here, Luckett, is if Hurts continues to look rusty, and if Stafford continues to be awesome, because they mollywopped him, and I know a lot of it was on the defense and just making Sam Darnold, look like the Sam Darnold who was seeing ghosts on Monday Night Football with the Jets a few years ago. But this game's in the cold, and I don't know. Do I have a Matt Stafford outdoor bias? The years of seeing him throw passes to Calvin Johnson in the Dome, and now being a pretty boy in LA, have me convinced that he can only win in domes.
Yeah, here's the thing with the Rams. It's just my 2 cents here. You can call me an idiot if you want. But they had the worst point differential of all playoff teams. I believe that's correct. So, like, how often can they keep doing this?
The Chiefs did it last year, though. And I know it was Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, and that defense was awesome. But what if this defense is just getting hot? Matt Stafford's been there, won that before. Huh? A little bit older. Sean McVay, he's cooking. I don't know. Maybe I'm just trying to pissing in the wind here.
Yeah, I think you could argue they have some of that like championship DNA, so like they're probably harder to knock out.
Nakua,
more comfortable,
Cooper Kupp, Kyron Williams.
More comfortable just playing in games with these high stakes and all of that. So, but I just don't see them. I just don't think they're that on that level of a team. I would be surprised. Like that game, I think they had to have like a +2 turnover margin. And it feels like Philly got their stinker out of the way. We'll see how that holds.
That's the part where I'm kind of with you. I do wish we knew something about Tyler Higbee because he was playing well, and I feel like he's a big part of that offense for them. Big Tyler Higbee fan. He's gone to the South End Derby party before. He's a topper. He's gotten after it with the locals. Big Tyler Higbee fan. So hopefully he plays. 6.5-point dogs for the Rams. Are the Lions going to mollywop the Commanders like it? Or will there be some rust off the bye?
Yeah, I kind of like, what's the total in this game? That feels
55.5.
So the line's 8.5, 55.5. So 31 to 23. That's what you're looking at.
Gosh, you do that so quick. I'm so bad at that math.
34 to 26 would be 60. So you're like 33 to 24. 33 to 24 would be 57.
Yeah, there you go. It's close enough. It's a lot.
Lions are getting there. Do the Commanders get there? That would be my question. Play the Lions team total over. That would be my suggestion.
I like the under in the other game. The Texans, who are obligated by law to play the early Saturday game when they're in the playoffs. But that defense is good. I think the Chiefs, it's been how many days since Patrick Mahomes has played a football game? 25. They'll be a little rusty. And then Spags, he's going to be getting after CJ Stroud's ass like that. So I know it's the lowest total of the weekend at 41.5, but that feels like a grinder. Where the Chiefs will play with their food, and it'll probably be closer than it needs to, but 20 to 14, something like that. 20.
Yeah, but these teams just played like 4 weeks ago, and it was I bet the under in that game. It was one of those Saturday December games, and it ended up being like 27 to 19. No punts. It was just bogging down in the red zone, right? So you had a bunch of field goals. It was a field goal over essentially at the end of the day.
Oh, those are the best.
So, I don't – but two good defenses. That one's a hard one to get a read on. That number feels like you should probably play the Texans. Yeah. But in this round last year, they went to Baltimore and got bulldozed. Didn't score an offensive touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. I'm trying to get off parlays as much as possible, Nick, because they're just bad investments.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, back your MVP quarterbacks. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, each to throw 2 touchdowns. You can get that at over plus 400. 4-1. It feels like if you play this out 4 times, that would probably hit maybe twice.
50-50 shot?
There's a good chance all these teams I think are going to score. And the Chiefs are probably going to need to throw it to score. The Bills, I think, will probably need to throw it to score against that Ravens run defense. Lamar is the one I would be worried about.
Mm-hmm.
But back your MVP quarterbacks.
Okay. I'll back
You can
him.
get that plus 417 right now. So if you're looking for a little something like that,
Oh,
I think
buddy. This is where you gotta change your ways, brother. You gotta download the Prospects app.
there you
Get it
go.
on your phone. Use promo code KSR. $5 and just play $5 and you'll get $50 of Prospects bucks in your account. And if you hit the squares on your daily fantasy sports app and you have Mahomes more than 1.5 touchdown passes, Josh Allen more, Lamar Jackson more than 1.5, that's 4.75 times your money. So if you play your initial investment, $5 to get $50 in prize picks promo money, you can win $23.75 off of that. That sounds like a heck of a play this weekend for the divisional round. So go ahead, download the Prospects app, promo code KSR, play $5 in daily fantasy sports, get 50 deposited in your account. Terms apply at prizepicks.com. Download the Prospects app, play NFL, college football, college basketball, whatever it may be. Yes, I said college football because we have the national championship game coming up on Monday. And Luckett, we're going to do something fun for the national championship game too. We've got a little something for the people.
We're excited about it.
Tell them about it.
Yeah, so I think some of y'all saw Brandon Ramsey and Sean and Stephen Peak do a little watch along for a game. We're just going to do that for the national title game.
Yeah.
So instead of, they used to have the coaches show, we're just going to do it with us. I'm going to eat pizza on it like Steve Adazio did, and it's going to be a good time.
That's a dude.
So we'll go watch the game. We'll talk about the game. We can have a big football Q&A too. So
oh yeah, it's going to be a little bit.
So get on there with us, and we'll be watching in real time. Just kind of break it out. Yeah, I think this is something we're kind of experiment with at KSR. So get on there and let us know if you enjoy this or if it's something you want to see again. But yeah, we're going to be doing that Monday night. Excited about it.
I'm fired up for it, especially just to. I think that people might be interested to see how we watch games because I'm one of those who's. I don't want to say hooting and hollering, but I'm a much harsher critic in game. And in fact, that's what's made me hesitant to do these for Kentucky games because I am, like most fans, I can be, my words can be a little bit more biting during the game.
Yeah, yeah.
I've got a 4-1 ticket on Ohio State to win it all. Should I hedge my bet, Luckett, or just let it ride? Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Because I think the path for Notre Dame to win the national championship is just it's asking a lot. It's asking a lot from Riley Leonard. It's asking them to be able to run the damn ball. And it's asking Ohio State to have learned nothing from their loss to Michigan. Because Notre Dame has to play the Michigan game to beat Ohio State. And I just don't think Lightning is going to strike twice against this roster.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of stuff kind of happened in that game. I don't think that Notre Dame's going to maybe be able to pull off the same blueprint. Like you look at Notre Dame, they've got line of scrimmage injuries. This feels like it finally catches up to them here. Their run defense was not good against Penn State. Singleton and Katron Allen both had good games. It's a little concerning going up against this offense where they're going to have to play with some light boxes. And so can you fit the run with some light boxes?
I don't know. And I do think too that Jeremiah Smith had a dud of a game the last time out. I don't think in year
they just didn't throw. I mean, they just didn't throw to him. I don't know if it was a.
I think they're going to throw to him. I think they're going to throw it to him because it's a year-to-year free agency. If he's unhappy, these diva wide receivers, don't let the diva wide receiver be a diva. Throw it to him 8 times in the national championship game. Let him eat, and then he'll come back next year and be awesome for you again, Ohio State. Don't mess this up. Just feed him, and let's profit from it.
Yeah, the real question is how many points do you think Notre Dame needs to score to win?
I don't want to say 30 because that feels like it's asking too much, but I kind of want to say 30 27.
Okay, let's do. You can get over 26.5 at plus 285.
Whew.
You can parlay that with the money line. It's a plus 390 ticket.
There you go.
If you wanted to play a little,
I wanted to hedge my bet.
Yeah. If you wanted to hedge your bet, that's how you. I mean, that's almost the same price.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
Boom, we figured out the math. We'll have more to talk about that game on Monday. And you know, it's going to feel like it's just you and I talking, and just some of our closest friends, right? Everybody's on the podcast. The watch along. We're just gonna be a couple guys hanging out. Maybe have a couple cold ones, a couple Cokes. Which, by the way, Luckett, I got a late Christmas present for you. Yeah. So you're gonna be fired up, buddy. I needed.
Am I receiving it virtually?
Yeah, I wish you could, but it's to your favorite joint. It's a coupon book for your favorite restaurant that you go to all the time. Which, by the way, we just need to go there and make them a sponsor. Can we just show up and be like, hey, we talk about Roosters all the time. Can you just give us money?
Yeah, I thought about just going to my spot at the bar and just bringing the equipment and we'll just start talking. We could have your cousin on. He's there every once in a while.
Yeah.
I heard he was in there just dining with the family a week or so ago. Yeah, sources told me. Rooster sources told Adam Luckett. But yeah, it's a spot.
Creek. It's where everybody knows your name. Well, I know that I need to start packing for Florida. I'm excited for the long weekend. Hopefully, nothing too crazy happens while you and I are enjoying a little R&R this weekend. But we appreciate everybody for joining us today on 11 Personnel. Hope you'll join us. Just put your TV on mute on Monday and fire up the YouTube, and we'll talk about it. We'll talk about the game, have ourselves a good time. For Adam Luckett, I'm Nick Roush. This has been 11 Personnel.